Hi, I'm Ian James from Cell, and you're listening to Music Existence.
Welcome back to another instance of music existence where, because of music, we exist. I'm very, very happy to have with me Ian James, one of two singers and guitarists of the band Cell, who have recently reunited the first time in decades to play the Drom Fest in the Catskill Mountains, Drom Fest 2024, alongside bands like Antietam, Home Rocket, who are also having their first show in decades, King Missile, and Sleepyhead. Oh man, like there's many, many more in store on that festival. But Ian, thank you so much for coming on, man. I appreciate it.
Very happy to do it. You're probably our number one fan, I think, at this point. um, we haven't reunited yet, actually. Everyone, we've just agreed to reunite. We've agreed to. Um, I mean, we're planning on it. I don't think it's
Oh wow. So
not. It's official, but we just, our drummer is in Berlin, and he lives in Berlin. Always has, or since we broke up. Our good, the other singer, the main guy in the band, Jerry, lives in LA, and Dave and I live on the East Coast. You know, mostly near New York.
wow. So it's all just a matter of getting you in relatively the same location, right?
Yeah, I mean, we're not actually going to be all in the same room until a week before the show.
Wow. So that's pretty exciting. So I mean, this is almost 30 years since you guys played together. And you mentioned there are a lot of hardships, which we'll get into later, but the dust has cleared. The cancer is cured, so to speak. Would you say?
Yes. No, I was just thinking. I was actually like, I left the band. It could, for all I know, it could be exactly 30 years ago today. It was right around the end of May, beginning of June. Well, I had probably already left at this point. But 30 years ago exactly, 1994.
Wow.
Um, and I kind of left them in the lurch between two tours. We had just finished a European tour, and they had to go back out and do an American tour in 2 weeks. And you know, I was just having issues. I was married, and so I there was sort of a ultimatum made put to me by my wife that I can either go with the band or I can go with her, and you know that I had to make a choice.
Life took over essentially.
Yeah, I mean, we ended up having a kid. We were married for 20 years, so it was, I guess, a good choice. I don't know. I mean, I still feel pretty bad. We haven't discussed any of this. I'm talking to you before I talk to them, actually, not any of this.
I appreciate it, man.
Well, you jumped in first. You get all the credit. If anyone, they're gonna have to, quote like from like hashtag Jake Kussmaul.
You nailed that pronunciation of my last name, like right on.
I was a professional pronouncer for 15 years as well, um, which is a long story, but I worked on recorded books, so we had to pronounce everything. I had to know how to pronounce everything. But a job I kept while I was in cell, by the way. The other guys didn't keep their jobs.
It's really cool. So if we can go back to the beginning of your life, you're originally from Chicago, as I
Yeah.
understand. And
Hmm.
I looked on Discogs through Cell's singles, and I noticed that you have covers of Free to Sing by Cheap Trick and Free Money by Patti Smith, both
Hmm.
of whom, coincidentally or not, are Chicago artists. And was that kind of, were they kind of part of your early influences growing up?
Well, the funny thing is, first of all, I didn't know Patti Smith was from Chicago, but
Yeah, that's
uh,
pretty funny.
this is the first I've heard of it. So, but Deke Kreutzen, that's my shirt. No, Cheap Trick. I was a huge fan of Cheap Trick, and I grew up in a small town. Like I spent, my parents were divorced half the time in Chicago proper, half the time out in a small town about an hour away from Chicago. And I was a huge Cheap Trick fan, 10 years old on. And I did not know that they were based, literally based in a town 15, 20 minutes north of me. They still live there. Like Rockford, Illinois, I lived 15, 20 minutes south of there. That is where they're from. You can totally hear it in their accents. Uh,
Oh, wow. So,
they are so Midwest. Uh,
especially being a professional pronouncer, you can probably hone in on that regionalism, right?
well, they talk like my sister.
Oh, wow.
Uh,
So it's very Midwestern.
Even on the Budokan stuff, like uh, I can just hear it. Like they talk like the people from my town. Um, I don't know. No, but it wasn't conscious, just we were all big Cheap Trick fans. There was a summer we were hanging out before we made, maybe before we signed even, um, where we were just hanging out at this lake house that one of us rented, that we shared with, it was actually Kid Congo Powers's, uh, no, well, I don't know, it wasn't Kid Congo Powers. It was the other guy with the coconuts, but, um, we rented a lake house, and the two albums on the boombox, which is what we had at the time, uh, were In Color and Heaven Tonight, and just on repeat pretty much. Even though I'd been listening forever, but so that was the soundtrack to the summer before we recorded, I think. So yeah, so we were just listening to a lot of Cheap Trick at the time. Jerry is really a big Patti Smith fan. I can see I'm not as knowledgeable about her. I totally like what I hear, but it's not quite up my alley. But to me, Jerry doing Free Money or doing any song of hers is really appropriate. I'm not really sure why. There seems to be some similar vibe to the two of them that I see. I don't know. So I thought that was really, even though I'm not particularly a Patti Smith fan, I thought that was a great choice. I think he actually does a great job on the song, singing it. Um,
And then what were your early efforts at playing guitar? Was what gravitated you toward that instrument
well, I played drums. Uh,
originally?
yeah, because that was the coolest instrument in band. And then,
I played drums.
well, I didn't play it that well, but I ended up living with my dad in a condo, high-rise condo in Chicago, and you really can't play your drums there. So I would sneak his acoustic guitar out of the closet and somehow taught myself to play it upside down because I'm left-handed.
I'm
Um,
left-handed too.
uh, all the best ones are,
Yeah.
but I didn't know how to tune it, so I ended up tuning it to an open E major chord, which I didn't know anything about. And then one of the guys I went to high school with, Jay, who would later be in White Zombie, um, he played guitar. He had a hardcore band called Rights of the Accused in Chicago.
Oh yeah.
And we would hang out after school, and we both happened to have taught ourselves to play with open E tuning. And that sort of solidified, he taught me a little bit. One of the funny things I remember Jay telling me was I wrote a song and it had two parts, and he's like, two good parts. And he's like, no, 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 no. If you have just one good part per song, that's all you need. He's like, take the two good parts and make two different songs, which I disagreed with and I still disagree with. But, that was a Jay from White Zombie story. But he was a, big influence on me as a guitar player and a kid uh, through high school. Um, I don't know. We just always did music and then got to college. I was in bands in high school and um, like kind of punk and synth punk, weird shit.
And a new wave post-punk kind of stuff.
Yeah, we were trying to be like New Order, Joy Division with more of an edge, Cabaret Voltaire, I don't know. We were new there was some industrial stuff that was coming out that we really liked. So it was very like, but I played guitar in it.
Kind of like more abrasive stuff.
It was very abrasive.
So man, that's an understatement then.
Hmm. Yeah, that hurt some people
Yeah. But
in
it
the ear.
formed you nonetheless. It had like a big all that combinative type stuff had a big influence on you.
Sure. Well, I think you're a little younger than me, but in those days,
I'm 33.
and you're a lot younger than me.
Yeah, I was born in 91, a year after Cell formed. So,
Well, no wonder you couldn't get Slow Blow. Um, I'll hook you up with some singles too.
oh yeah,
Uh,
please.
I don't know how many left we have, or how many we have left. I don't know. We might end up, but between you and me, we're putting out a new single for this show, but it's from an old song that, like, we were watching an old live video of us that someone put on YouTube, and we were like, oh wow, I remember that song. I totally forgot about it. We should put that out. So we're working on it right now. I think Keith has the tapes in Berlin and he's adding drums. Um, where was I? Yeah, so in those days it was really cool because especially in high school, because we'd be listening to New Order early New Order, then Minor Threat, uh Adam and the Ants, if we were going to listen to pop music, which was incredibly inventive, actually.
Yeah,
Adam and the
still.
Ants is incredible to go back and listen to and be like, oh, that was that was like a hit. Those were they're very interesting and unusual and original songs. Human League, whatever you name it, uh, you could listen to it at the time. Some of it was cooler than others. But, MTV was just happening, although they weren't showing a lot of edgy stuff. But it was a
Even
time,
after like even like during the time of like Cutting Edge and 120 minutes and that kind of stuff.
it was before that.
Okay.
Um, if you wanted Doc Martens, you had to get a friend to fly to England and buy them for you.
Oh, so that's where they started in England and then blew up.
Hmm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because we would see pictures. We would see photos in magazines of the Clash or something, and they'd be wearing these boots that didn't look like combat boots, but they were boots, but they kind of looked like combat boots, and we kind of figured it out. Um, and I don't know, it was just a time when kind of a lot of different genres, really interesting stuff. All most of it pretty guitar heavy, which for me it's got to have guitars. I mean, there's also metal going on, which we
Yeah.
completely ignored. We ignored that until college, pretty much, but got into that too.
Oh, nice.
I mean, Judas Priest, Maiden, AC/DC, they were putting out amazing stuff in the late 70s, early 80s.
Okay, so that time frame was late 70s, early 80s.
Pretty
So,
much.
yeah. So, at what point did you move to New York City?
To go to college, 18. I dropped out at Thanksgiving break.
Oh man.
Oh, I think it was a smart move.
Yeah.
They tried to talk me out of it. They said I'd regret it, but I finished. I got my bachelor's when I was almost 40.
It's all right. Everyone starts somewhere, you know?
No, it ended up being, it's funny because there were times that I regretted it, but I wouldn't have had, I wouldn't have had the time to do music
You
or
had already established a network of people you knew creatively who inspired you, and you have this momentum going. So, in some way, did college sort of get in the way of that?
it would have. And it made it difficult for my previous band called Flower, my college band, which was made it difficult for us. But what's interesting now that you mention it, I just take this all for granted because you're a kid and you grow up and it just is the way it is. But um, we were sort of there's an NYU dorm,
Right.
which is where we ended up. I didn't go to NYU. I went to Hofstra University, which was a crap school and probably still is. And um, but I would hang out at NYU with my friends from Detroit and Chicago. And happening in the same dorm at the same time was Das Damen was forming. Rick Rubin was there. Beastie Boys were there. I remember Rick Rubin's room was like across the hall from one of our friends. And, he was kind of making a name for himself at the time, but,
Was he
he,
still kind of a dorm room producer at that point?
yeah. Yeah, I think he still lived in the Weinstein dorms.
Wow.
Which I mean, if you know NYU, you know Weinstein dorms. If you didn't, then forget it. But they were the really bad modern concrete block dorms that NYU had at the time. And there was lots of music. I mean, I could probably name lots of other stuff too. I was gonna say Jesse Malin, but he wasn't actually there. And you guys might not know who he is.
Right.
But
So all this stuff basically was you took all the stuff from your formative years, your childhood, and then all the college stuff that was uh, blowing up also
Mhm.
had an impact on you.
Yeah, well, what happened at the time was if you were an American white kid in America at the time, and you were into alternative music or looking for the other stuff that was, more dangerous,
Hmm.
you're into hardcore. Like hardcore was the thing. That was the thing on offer when we were in high school. But then, that changed. Minor Threat changed into Fugazi, and Rites of
Yeah.
Spring
And
came along, and
more
things.
artier type stuff, emotive, you know,
Yeah, and kind of widening the scope of like
for sure.
sort of getting away from the formula. And so we get to New York and the hardcore scene sucked. I hated it. A lot of fighting, lots of macho stuff that wasn't happening in Chicago.
Did all that sort of obscure the music that was going on that was otherwise, you know,
No, because well, what happened was we were like, this sucks. And we happened to go to like a Sonic Youth show, which they were pretty small. Sonic Youth, Live Skull, um, Swans, uh, not sure who else. But Butthole Surfers would come by a lot. But that was all in the early days, like a few hundred people in the audience. But that was like we were like, oh, okay, this is the direction. We're going from hardcore into really
the more
interesting.
indie type noise type.
Well, we didn't call it indie at the time.
Yeah.
It was it was just avant-garde, like
Hmm. Yeah.
noise. I mean, noise was definitely in like a word we used, but we were just trying to get weird and scare people.
Yeah.
Uh,
Scare people in an avant-garde way as opposed
mhm.
to like a death metal type way.
Right. Well, in a much more existentially terrifying.
Exactly.
I mean, early Sonic Youth. I mean, I don't know
Yeah,
how
they were
familiar.
all like dum, 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 that kind of drony.
Right. And if you saw them live, they didn't smile in those days. They weren't like that trash rock thing they got later.
Yeah,
Um, you're like, who the fuck are these people?
yeah, it kind of repels you like when you first listen to when you're talking like 84 when they when they first
Yeah,
it's
that would have been right around Bad Moon Rising, I guess.
Yeah,
And actually, with Bad Mood Rising, they started heading a little more. They started having sort of more identifiable songs,
right.
maybe almost with a melody.
Mm,
um, but that was really exciting. So we got to New York. 1984 was when we got there, freshman year, and now all that stuff was going on. I was transitioning from a hardcore kind of orientation to just how far can we go in odd directions.
yeah, I'd imagine. So once flour kind of got heavier, did you feel that you could take the heaviness of flour and translate it into cell?
Well, what happened was actually flour got lighter,
Okay.
which a lot of people don't realize. Because actually, if anyone gets their hands on our CD that has like the two albums on it, the
Yeah, the
first album,
concrete sky one?
yeah, the first album is the first part of the album is actually the second album.
Right.
So a lot of people think we started a little
Yeah,
lighter and
because
then got darker.
they don't have crash on it, right?
Well, Crash was a mistake.
Okay. You didn't like it, or did it just not like,
All right, I'll tell you the story real quick, Jake.
okay,
Sarah Lawrence College, me and Richard started a new band. We wanted to try having keyboards in our band,
yeah.
and like we were practicing, and like within 2 weeks we had this song Crash and like maybe five others, just real quick. And
So you
someone
really
heard
just
them.
wanted to get something out, or oh
No,
man, so it wasn't even that, but it got out
no,
anyway.
we recorded it on our boombox, and like some guy, a guy at NYU, WNYU, which was the the indie radio station, uh, heard it and wanted to. Well, he put us in a Battle of the Bands thing
So
in New
he
York.
saw the potential before you did.
Yeah,
Oh
but
wow.
so imagine being
It
in a band.
unexpectedly resonated with, people you wouldn't, think.
Yeah, we had you know in a band 2 weeks. Hey, do you want to play this Battle of the Bands? Oh, sure, that would be fun. We ended up winning, and what you won was
What?
a day of recording. Yeah, and a day of recording. So we had to record something, but that's all we had. Like we had like five songs, so we recorded what we thought was our three best songs.
Right.
And then Richard and I sort of sat back and kind of thought, well, we don't want to. I mean, that was fun, but that's not what we want to go forward with. That sound.
Right.
So we basically we repopulated Flower with a different drummer
Mhm.
and Richard's brother Ed,
Right.
and kept the name because um, we had a single. So uh, the guy who was our manager was like, well, it's hard, like just keep the name Flower because it's been played on college radio. Um, so we did, and put out a couple records and did a couple tours, but played with a couple of bands that you know I don't know who do we play with, like Meat Puppets and Dinosaur Jr. and probably some others.
Yeah.
Um, and that sort of started us on our indie career. But this is about Cell, I guess, or is this about
Yeah.
me?
And then you actually left like right when they were releasing their last album. You left the band. Well, now was that to form Cell?
Mm-mm.
Oh,
No,
okay. So it's a different reason.
well, yeah, because we couldn't get along. Like
Oh, okay.
we're best friends as long as we're not in a band together.
Oh, oh, okay.
There's kind of two leaders uh, who aren't the most. I mean, I'm one of them, so I'm talking about myself as well. Who aren't the most generous sharing people when it comes to music. So
Oh, okay.
we would
So
get
it's
in love.
your way and no other way. kind of more or less.
There was a lot of brinksmanship. There
Right.
was a lot of like, we do it my way or I quit.
Okay.
And that doesn't make for, getting along too well. Um, so I don't know. There's a different, I say I was kicked out. Richard says I quit.
Okay.
Um, Either way, no more Flower, but then out of Flower came Versus,
Versus, yeah.
because Richard and Ed stuck together and I was out on my own.
Hmm.
I don't know. I was friends with Mark C, who was in Live Skull, and he just said, "Hey, oh my goodness, there's a heat warning." Uh, I'm in Massachusetts, by the way, in a leafy, suburban, lovely place.
Right.
Um, so Versus came out of that. So Ed and I was on my own, and Mark C, yes, Mark C was a friend of all of ours. He was in Live Skull. We loved Live Skull. I think I even auditioned for Live Skull at some point. But um, he just said, "Oh, I have these friends who are looking for a bass player."
Right.
Um, because that's what people knew me as. I'm really a guitar player, but I play bass in Flower. And so I went and met them, and they had a singer. They had two guitar players, a singer named someone whose name escapes me at the moment. I'll totally remember it as soon as we're done. But it doesn't really matter. She didn't do music after that. She left, moved back to Ohio. These guys were just trying to, Keith and Jerry, Keith the drummer, Jerry the main songwriter, singer, guitar player, um, were forming a band. Um, and I was kind of sitting in to see how it would go, like if I liked it or liked them. And I definitely liked them. And they had a song that I thought was pretty awesome called Stratosphere,
Stratosphere, yeah.
which I did not write. Um, but I was like, wow, if they have more like this, we're in good shape. This is a pretty good thing to do. Hang out. And they're nice guys.
Right.
Uh, so I moved up to guitar. Oh, Renee. When Renee left, I switched to guitar and
Yeah, so
vocals.
it's written by Renee Stratosphere, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think she wrote the words. I doubt she wrote the music, but what do I know?
Now the lyrics are attributed to Renee.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I'll buy that. Renee
But
was perfectly.
Stratosphere, so it started with Stratosphere. That was kind of the nucleus of, oh man, I'm going punny here. The nucleus of Cell was in the song Stratosphere. I
Yeah.
can use nucleus birth.
Well, I have a feeling we were jamming around, and there's Smoke Case songs. It's like, yeah, it's all right. And then they had Stratosphere, and it's like, wow, like that's a killer song. Um, and I'll even jump ahead. So like, I ended up, I don't know. They had a rehearsal space that was in Hoboken, New Jersey. It was a small rundown place. There was about four rooms. Sleepyhead was rehearsing in one of
Yeah.
them. Uh, Das Damen, Sonic Youth, and Yola Tango. Probably some other famous band that I can't remember, but you know, they were all in this space, and we would see each other and hear each other practicing. And there was a lot of like, one time I was recording a guitar part just for fun on a 4 track, and I look up and there's Thurston Moore watching me, and you can hear. I still have the 4 track. There's like a place where I fuck up, and it's like when I look up, I like, it's Thurston Moore. My
Kind of
God.
like, hey man, that's a really cool,
Hey man, no,
yeah,
he
sound.
totally. I think he totally ignored me, but
Typical
that's
Thurston
okay.
Moore
I mean,
deep voice kind of he.
I can't do a Thurston imitation.
Oh man.
I can do a lot of imitations, but not Thurston.
Yeah, his is more nuanced.
But yeah, I mean, that leads to an interesting story about Cell, which is we got signed. We got signed right after that. Like we had a few
Ecstatic Peace,
offers.
right?
Yeah. Well, no,
Oh no, all
that's
right.
another story.
Before Ecstatic Peace.
Well, it's a little weird because through the people we knew, Jerry and Keith especially.
right.
were into the whole uh, Hoboken, New York alternative music scene. I was a little more of an outsider. Stuff just got into the right hands very early on.
Coincidentally,
Well, if you rehearse next door to influential people and your band doesn't suck too bad, you might
hear
use
something.
it. Hmm?
They're gonna hear something. They're gonna catch on. It's gonna,
Right. We didn't have trouble catching anyone's ear because we just happened to be in the right place at the right time.
wow.
So, uh, yeah, so that song Stratosphere, it's interesting because we got signed to Geffen through Sonic Youth, through Thurston and Kim, who were like covert A&R people for I don't know what they were, recruiters, spies, I don't know.
Right,
But
because it's through them. It's the same way Nirvana was signed, I
yeah.
imagine.
So the way I tell the story is Nirvana hit it big, way bigger than anyone expected,
Right.
and um, I think Geffen, which was DG, we were on a affiliate label called DGC, which was hipper.
Okay.
Um, that's where all the cool bands were. Uh, they said, "So, okay, Nirvana went pretty well. What else you got?" And Thurston and Kim said, "Well, we got this band Cell." And I guess they got a tape passed on to them and they came to a show and they liked it and they offered us a
They're like
contract.
never too high, never too
It
high,
was it was not never too high. They might have heard that. I
never
don't know.
too high. Or the Stratosphere, probably. It was the Stratosphere was
Well,
still
it
the
was
song.
the thing was it was Stratosphere, I think. And um their strategy with Nirvana, they wanted to do with us. So the strategy with Nirvana was they the first song, Smells Like Teen Spirit, was not the song they expected to be a hit.
Right.
It was supposed to be sort of an introduction, like start a little buzz.
Yeah, and it did start a buzz, but then it
Well, that
unexpectedly.
ended up being the hit, you know. Um, that wasn't supposed to be the hit. That was supposed to be just the thing that sort of whetted people's appetite, and then whatever came next,
Sure,
whatever they released next was supposed to be the hit.
sure.
Come as You Are, probably,
Right.
but so they're going to do the same thing with Cell, and so they were like, well, we know Stratosphere is a great song, but we're going to whet their appetite with this other song called Fall. And we were kind of like, well, Fall's not that great. As Fall's okay, uh, but it doesn't have the hooks that Stratosphere does. And they put, but they're like, no, 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 we know what we're doing. And so Geffen put Fall out as our first single and video and and it was 120 minutes on 120 minutes and various other things. You
Rock
know,
Video Monthly.
was it?
Yeah, yeah, it was on Rock Video Monthly. That's where I heard of it. This
Oh.
guy on YouTube posted a bunch of Rock Video Monthly songs, and I was like, oh, so.
Um, well, despite how you feel about it, Jake,
Oh man.
despite how you feel about it, we got played twice, maybe three times, and then out of the rotation. That was it. Last anyone heard of us. That was it. I think if it was Stratosphere, I do think if it was Stratosphere, we might have
You
at
would
least.
have made a video for Stratosphere? That would have been,
Stratosphere was supposed to be number two. That was supposed to be the hit, but Fall failed so badly that they didn't even make one for Stratosphere.
oh, holy hell. Oh God. So yeah, so the interesting thing about Fall is it had its own single, and I think well, I read here it appeared on Ecstatic Peace number 14, Cell 7 inch, and the notes were this song appears here for the first fucking time.
I gotta look at my copy. I have like
But
one
it's a
copy.
different version than on Slo Blo. Was it like a demo?
I don't know. Um,
So
Good question. Did we do a demo? Did we even do a demo?
of Fall.
Yeah,
So
I don't know.
probably the same one that's on Slo Blo.
No. Well, I don't know. It might have been mixed. It got remixed.
Oh, okay. So it's probably a different mix.
if it sounds pretty similar, if it sounds decent, then it's probably from the Slo Blo sessions because anything we did before that would have been like on 4 track or something.
Right, right, right.
Um,
Oh, okay. Well, it's good to have you here so you can, clarify the
well,
information.
this is how cynical the world is. The music business is that there we were already. I mean, there's a thing where we were signed to a European label first called City Slang that
City
had
Slang, yeah, that's where I found out about all your singles.
right. So we were signed to a European indie label that, but it was pretty big, like had
Was
Hole and
that before Geffen or was it in the midst of Geffen?
it was just like 2 months before Geffen or something like that. Like they had already started the process of releasing our record, and we had already signed a contract with them, but it was just for Europe.
I saw that in on your Facebook that you started posting uh, live photos of Cell touring in France. So did you build up that momentum prior to the record label and all of that, or was that because of the label or because of both?
No, it's all because I mean, if I'm giving my opinion, but because someone else in the band might say think differently or feel
Okay,
differently, but I don't think I think it all came from the label. It all came from being signed. It all came from being associated with Sonic Youth and Sonic Youth proteges, which we
wow,
weren't. We were not exactly Sonic Youth proteges, but we were pals,
right.
right? Definitely, Sonic Youth is a superior band uh, in any way you measure it. But um, we weren't, but we were considered like I think Huggy Bear was also kind of thought of that way too, a little bit. Um, if that was a band in England at the
Yeah,
time. Um, uh, a lot of that happened, So actually, I'm going back to the cynicism of the music business. What they did, we had nothing. We had no momentum. We had no. I mean, yes, we had. I have to acknowledge that we signed with City Slang, but that was again unfortunate sort of happenstance. It was all very early in the band's life, like months, I think. I feel, and we played a couple of shows before that, but not much. And um, so we were concerned, not us as much, but the label, DGC Geffen, I'm just going to call him Geffen.
right.
Geffen was concerned with our, what you call indie cred, our credibility on the street
Right.
of being an indie band. Like it's not cool to like just start a band and then get signed to a major label. That was not cool at the time.
Right,
Probably,
because when it happens instantaneously, all those bands that go through that trajectory are instantly frowned upon. They're like, no, like
yes.
what?
Yeah.
What's
Yeah. And I think we were too a little bit because I think some people saw through that, especially because they manufactured this whole thing of, well, they were like, well, before we, well, to give them some credence of hipness, some level of hipness and underground,
right?
we're gonna, why don't, Thurston, why don't you release a single of theirs on your label Ecstatic Peace? And Thurston was like, sure.
Cool.
That's where that came from. It was to like establish so that we could say like, well, no, we didn't, we were an indie band and now we're,
Yeah.
it was all manufactured by Geffen. And I don't want to make it sound like I'm critical of Thurston because I'm not, but
He's your pal.
huh?
He's your pal, man.
I don't know the guy.
Oh,
I haven't seen him for like, I mean, I don't even think he'd remember who I was.
oh
But
man.
well, maybe he would. I don't know. But uh anyway, I was an aunt to him. But I think, I mean, I would love to go back and talk to him and ask him what was on his mind. I mean, in fact, I'm sort of shooting a documentary on all this, or I'm trying to, where we kind of examine like Thurston, like, I mean, not just Thurston, but, you know, did you think it would be a good idea that everybody tried to get famous, or what did you think was happening there? Because I think his best. He had the best of intentions,
Right.
and I think he thought it was the turn of like more challenging music to make the money and get the spotlight. And he thought, okay, our time has come, so let's move this along. Let's get some really interesting bands out there and have them be the bands that people fill stadiums to
So
see.
he was the orchestrator of that, and whatever you said to him was probably like, another time. Now I'll be able to, or get this going. And you're like, oh, come on, man. Like, where's my input?
Uh, I mean, we had plenty of input. I mean,
Okay.
they just thought, I mean, in fact, I think we had all the input. See, what we didn't realize at the time was they were signing tons of bands and just letting the bands do whatever they want. And whichever ones got famous, they were going to hang on to. And whichever ones did not sell many records, like we didn't, it's just like, see you later. It didn't really, they just signed 100 bands and like two of them, five of them, 10 of them, sort of made it, and the other ones, you just cut your losses if
So
you're the record.
like, so 1992, Slo Blo comes out, and you know that I love that album. I love both your albums, but especially Slo Blo.
Okay.
Um, and I love the video for Fall. But anyway, to the best of your knowledge, what were the numbers of Slo Blo? How much did it sell? Sell, pun intended.
Yeah, I know. Sell out, like, we've heard them all. Slow blow, see, it's a little difficult
Was
because,
it below gold?
oh yeah.
Okay, not even a hundred
Like,
thousand.
no, yeah, I just throw out the number 70,000.
70,000. Okay.
I mean, no one really, we were sort of the numbers were so dismal that nobody told them to us. It
Oh,
wasn't like
yeah.
people called us up and were like, nobody called us up and said, you only sold 50,000 records, you know, but neither did they send us telegrams saying, congratulations, you sold 50,000 records.
So by them not sending any of those notifications, you were kind of left in the dark or in sort of a
Yeah.
limbo, right?
Yeah. Yeah. We could just kind of tell by the way people, when we first met all the Geffen people out in LA, they were like super, super excited to meet us. And then after the record came out and, we were touring and we were like, okay, the music
We
is
were
on
like,
MC. Like we're gonna start selling out shows, and it was still only like 30 people at a show
right.
in once we sort of realized like, well, nothing really happened. What happened? Nothing. Okay. Uh, and then we got to LA, and everyone's kind of like, hi. And you get to the Geffen offices, they're like, I'll be right back.
Oh man, very indifferent,
Avoidant. Yeah,
avoidant, yeah.
we found out, well, there were a lot of people on the payroll. So, and so therefore there were a lot of people that were not happy with us. So, they didn't cuss us out or anything. They just became pretty unreachable. They weren't there anymore.
Regardless of the turnout, what did you think of Slow Blow creatively, stylistically, thematically? Does it still resonate with you?
It never did.
Oh man. So you're just
Well,
gonna see what
okay, okay.
happens?
That's unfair.
Yeah.
Uh, when you're in the middle of it. So there's a guy who wrote a book. He's a carpenter, high-end carpenter in New York City. And he wrote a book and it was very interesting. And he's a genius and people love him, pay him millions of dollars to build staircases and things in their wealthy homes. He says, like, I still see all the mistakes I made. Like, they think this is a perfect work of art. And I can show you the 15 things I fucked up on it, you know?
On the
And
Slow record or on
well, that's,
any record
that's,
in general that he made?
that's all the records I make.
Okay.
So I got to live with like you have to be okay. I mean, I guess I have to be okay with oh, good try. That was a
Right.
good try. That was a good
Try,
try.
champ. Try, buddy.
I think Slow Blow is a good try. There's some stuff I really enjoy on there, but it's like, it's weird stuff. It's funny because I really like my favorite song on Slow Blow is Bad Day. And
How bad, how bad a day.
but that to me that's the most interesting song. I don't know. Like,
So tundra, everything turns, you know.
yeah, I mean, I even wrote Tundra.
Okay. Yeah, I think everyone
It's not my favorite
loves
song
that
though.
song.
But yeah, I felt like we needed a rhythmic change on the record, so I wrote
Yeah.
something more.
Dun,
But
dun.
what was I gonna say?
That's
Well,
a
I mean,
good song.
obviously, I think Stratosphere is the best song on the record,
Yeah, yeah, of course.
but we played it every single show we ever played. Like when you play a song every time, I still enjoy it, but it kind of like turns into a different animal.
Right.
Whereas when I go back and I hear Bad Day, I'm like, oh,
Then you kind of remembered why you made Slow Blow. Was Bad Day one of the early songs, or was it kind of
it
later in the
was.
process?
No, it was a song I think they pretty much had before I joined, but I helped, arrange it.
Solidify it, more or
Yeah,
less?
yeah.
Okay.
There's actually a moment we got shit for this in like some review, like about how lame it was for us to place it there. But there's a moment, when it gets the song like goes silent, and you can hear like this woman going, "It's a glorious, beautiful day," or
Yeah,
something.
yeah, yeah. Like that real bit of silence in the middle of the track. So
And
that
she
was
goes,
purely intentional, right?
"No,
Oh,
that no, my amp was picking up radio interference, and we were having trouble with
so
that
you
the whole
kept that in. Wow.
time. And it happened right there
Wow.
at the moment we stopped."
I don't know if that's like symbolic of anything or like unintentional depth. Or-
I don't know, but I always wanted to talk to that reviewer because the reviewer is like, "Oh my God, how stupid it is that they have an opera singer singing 'What a Glorious, Wonderful Day' in the break." And I'm like, that someone needs to tell this person that was fate. That was like the chances that your amp would pick up a radio frequency that clearly, they would be saying that phrase at that instant of the song where you stop for like a second and a half. Um, to us, that was incredible. We were like, you have to leave that in there. Like, how do you not put that?
yeah.
I mean, those were fun days. Those were, really fun days. That was
So
recorded in
was critical discourse, was it mixed, would you say?
mixed.
Yeah, was it did people half of them liked it and half of them were kind of like kind of turn their noses up at it
Yeah.
for Slow Blow?
Yeah, I'd say something like that. Um, yeah, I think it was mixed. And I think for various reasons, I don't really think all the songwriting was that strong. I don't think we were quite ready as songwriters to like actually do a full album.
Mhm.
Um, another song of mine on there is called Dig Deep. Like that's my song, but like we didn't have enough songs. That was just a thing I did on a 4 track. And we were like, we need another song.
What did we resist?
Yeah. That would not have made the cut in any band I've ever been in.
Wow.
But it did in that case because we ran out of songs.
Oh, wow.
It was definitely that's definitely my least favorite on the record. Well, maybe two. But Nah, Dig Deep is the worst song ever.
So like so would you put it like next to like maybe Fall, or I mean Fall is the one that kind of hooked me into you guys, and I
Well,
still sing it to this day.
Fall has something else going for it that Dig Deep didn't. I couldn't really tell you what, but it just hangs together better. It's got a better
Like that
groove.
solo like toward the end of the song. I like that
My,
interesting kind of interplay that you
it's
have
my
going with
favorite
the
part.
guitars.
Yeah, I wish we had done more of that. Things moved so fast that we didn't get a lot of chance. I think that's where the real potential for greatness of the band lay.
Hmm.
And we didn't make enough of that. We didn't pursue that enough. That's nobody's in particular's fault. Like I feel like I'm mad at myself for not sort of bringing it up. Like we never really talked about it.
Right.
And I think Jerry would agree. The other guitar player, Jerry, I mean the main guitar player. I'm second. I'm number two.
Oh,
I
you
learned Jerry was the guy.
the
He played
guy
all
for it, right?
um
And it's
break.
weird because you guys have tonally like very similar voices, but he's doing much more of the singing, right?
Mm-hmm. It's his band.
Okay. So you're you're the second, you're the Robin, he's Batman.
Yeah. I mean, I think Keith was Robin. I was Batgirl. I was like Alfred. Actually, I think Dave, the bass player, was Alfred. I was Batgirl.
Oh, all right. You're
Um,
the tertiary guy.
I was well, the heart of that band was Keith, the drummer, and Jerry DiRienzo, the singer,
Hmm.
visionary. And I just sort of joined on. I contributed. Uh, so I have my own band. Uh, like right after I left, I started a band called French, and it's still my band, and it's still people aren't allowed to tell me what to do in that
Oh,
band.
so
It's
you have like fuller, you know, you have full rather control.
absolute
Right. So,
control.
so, getting into living room,
Hmm.
did that resonate with you a bit more? I mean, I noticed that China Latina was originally, it exists in an earlier version, um, on the Cross the River single. So this is like a completely reworked version. And with Living Room, would you say those were new songs at the time?
Uh, it's hard to say because at the time it was just like the next year,
Right.
and by the time that we finished Slow Blow and recorded it, we were already on. Like if you look at
Right,
there's
because like Living Room was like end of 93, right? When you recorded it, right?
there was no snow on the ground.
Okay. No snow.
I don't know when we were. I feel like it was fall. I feel like there was crisp October days.
Okay.
But I would have to go back and look,
So
see
you
when.
were already on Living Room while Slow Blow was doing its run. You were already recording the next album?
Well, no, but we were already writing
Okay.
songs. Like we'd rehearse all the time. Like when it became our job. I mean, I did keep my job recording books, but um, I cut way back on my hours, so I was available for rehearsal a lot. We would just spend like 2 or 3 days, all afternoon and early evening rehearsing and writing, and so we just were coming up with lots of new songs, and it's sometimes surprising to me to see old live videos where like certain songs are already in existence that I thought came later. Um, so I'm not a great source. I'm not a reliable source. Uh, but a lot of the songs on Living Room went through several mutations,
Hmm.
which I got a little frustrated with. But Because I was kind of like, it's
So
fine.
was
Either
China
I'm
Latina like a completely different song in 93 compared to like when it actually showed up on Living Room?
I'd have to go back and listen to the different versions. It's also, I mean, just FYI, it's China Latina
China Latina, right?
because there was a kind of restaurant. Jerry actually lived above a restaurant called China Latina.
Oh, okay. So it's sort of like that spontaneous inspiration. Oh, look, a restaurant. Wow, that sounds like a song
No,
name.
I like the way that sounds, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah, that kind of thing.
And actually, there were a few of these. I don't know if there still are, but like they feature Chinese and Latin cuisine.
Right.
I don't know, but there were a few of those, and
So did you like that song as it existed on Living Room?
well, no.
Oh, you
Um,
didn't.
Well, because I saw the potential in it. There
Right.
was a time when it was much less complicated, even before there was a point where it was just basically the riff. Like I'm not gonna say like "Dun, dun, 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 dun,"
Yeah, yeah.
and it was probably 2.5 minutes long. It was just like just the riff with a little bit of extra stuff on it, and that was the version I liked best. But we kept tinkering and tinkering, adding, changing.
Right. So the arrangements sort of took on a life of their own.
Yeah, that started happening with Flower in our last incarnation when we recorded this last album in 2019 or something. That started happening with Flower, and I'm much more. I like the songs that are more spontaneous and just like however it comes out with a little bit of touch up here and there. You know, get it on, get it recorded, get it out. Like don't sweat it so much. And I hear not all the songs on living room are like that, but um they got added on to. They're like old houses that you just keep putting rooms on,
All right.
And
So yeah, so a lot of those songs on Living Room were like older songs that were reworked.
none of them were older songs.
Okay.
Every song on living room was written after Slow Blow came out,
Okay.
but some of them were just like even a month after Slow Blow came out.
Wow.
We were already, or actually we were already, it was there's a lag between when you record it and when it comes out, so there's probably six
Right.
there where we were
And
writing.
94 was a completely different kind of time because R&B was like getting big and grunge was kind of, or alternative, I guess, if you,
Grunge was already over at that point.
yeah.
um yeah, I mean living room, there it was a very different experience. In a lot of ways it was better, and in a lot of ways it was kind of weird and worse because like we felt we hadn't succeeded with our first record.
Right.
But I think it also gave us license be to not worry about, or not, well, we didn't think about that when we recorded the first record really,
But
but
you essentially you took pride in like having this sort of underdog kind of spirit.
I don't know, Jake.
Uh, I don't know, Jake.
I don't know, Jake. I don't know if that was the attitude.
Oh
um
man.
I would say that some of us felt wronged by the record label, and others of us felt the record label
So
had treated us quite fairly.
it kind of stunted the release. It stunted the turnout.
Yeah, I think it, yeah, stunted. There's probably a better word. You're very close with stunted, but it just kind of like we didn't expect anything. I was like, well, I'm not gonna,
Should I say it? Should I not say it?
I felt like the first Slo Blo has like this really cool cover.
Yeah.
It's very bright
The
and
reason why I showed you that I had a poster and you're like, you crazy, Jake.
oh, you are, but I can say that. Uh, yeah, I don't. I mean, Jerry had a friend who was a great painter, but I don't know why they settled on that as the cover. I was not. I mean, what the back of living room is, which it says like people's history of the world or something like that. Like I thought that would make a better front. I don't understand. Like it just felt the whole thing felt more. The music felt much more thought out, much more
Was
organized.
it
I
kind
think
of more complimentary of the cover art, would you say?
no, no. Actually, I thought the cover art of Slo Blo fit the vibrancy of some of the colors on like sound colors,
Right,
uh,
yeah.
of the first
It had a
record.
synesthetic approach.
It did, and actually the guy who did the photography for that record for Slo Blo was our drummer Andrew from Flower and French. So it always stays in the family. All the art, all the video direction, it's always, we have like a group of 15, 20 people that we all kind of hang together and
Mhm.
do each other's photography and video and stuff like that. So Andrew, Mark C from Live Skull, who introduced me to Cell, did the photography for the cover, the Ecstatic Peace cover,
Right.
like the black and white, Never Too High and Stratosphere.
Hmm.
So it's all in the family. Like we try to, so that's nice.
Hmm.
Uh, Even though we were on Geffen, a major label, like the people we created with were friends.
And
Um,
I feel like the video for Milky, in contrast to Fall, was kind of just you guys hanging out, and like with kind of taking the camera was more spontaneous kind of thing.
well, so Geffen, they gave us a $15,000 first video budget.
Hmm.
Second album, they said pay for your own video.
Oh yeah, I think I remember something.
So our friend Michael Galinsky, who actually is a great
Sleepyhead,
photographer,
right? He also directed
yeah,
Hitchcock.
he's in Sleepyhead. And go ahead, say what else he did.
No, no, I like how you guys are connected, and he's always sharing stuff about Rodin and the bands that he's photographed. So he's a cool guy
Well, hopefully he puts up some new photos because I'm tired of seeing all those ones that he keeps putting up.
from the 90s, man.
I've seen enough Nation of Ulysses photos.
Yeah.
Um,
Do you ever see Half Cocked?
no,
Oh,
no, but I have friends that are in it.
yeah, yeah. Ian's in it. Ian
Yeah,
plays the older brother. He's like, we're the guillotines. We'll be down whenever. We got to finish our encore. And then Tara Jane O'Neill gets rebellious and she has her revenge and she steals his van full of equipment. Then eventually she gets caught. And that's the whole movie.
don't spoil it for me. I haven't seen it yet.
Oh man, you might like it.
I probably will. I mean, I don't know. I'm surprised I haven't seen it. Yeah, I mean, Tara is a friend of ours, and a lot of people in the film. I'm sure I would see the film and be like, "Oh my God, it's so and so."
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of your friends are in there, probably.
Yeah. Well, I also used to date the lead, one of the female leads in shoot, Law and Order,
Okay.
and I have not seen one single episode. And she's like my old college girlfriend. So sorry, Katie.
Oh, man.
But she's great. I don't need to see her show. Um, right. So yeah, living room was a more professional experience. Like we recorded with John Agnello, who's this great producer. He's still working today. He works with Dinosaur Jr. a lot. A lot of other people. He was awesome to work with, and so he kind of um, was more assertive. When we did the first record, we were kind of in there on our own with an engineer who was John Sickett, who later recorded Sonic Youth and some other probably big stuff. But John just let us do it whatever we wanted. Um, well, they're both named John. John Sickett let us do it whatever we wanted because we only had like 2 weekends to record Slo Blo.
Hmm.
Uh, and Living Room we did in like 1 week of basics and then maybe a week of overdubs. So it's 2 whole weeks,
Wow.
which is really all you need if you know your songs.
Hmm.
If the songs are already written, which they were.
So,
Um,
so in contrast, was Living Room an album you could listen to and like feel somewhat satisfied with and not point out like too many mistakes of like, ah, that sounds kind of weird, or like, that sounds.
well, when I listen to my problem with Slow Blow is just that it's not that we made mistakes or anything. It's just we didn't have enough good material yet. I feel, obviously you might disagree, but I also knew it was floating around. I knew what we were doing in the rehearsal space that you didn't hear, and I'd be like,
So
well,
a
we
lot
need
of those
more.
songs were probably extremely like far superior than what ended up on the album, maybe.
Well, like I said, we ran out of songs and we had to do some old song of mine that I had on a 4 track that wasn't even one of my best songs.
Oh,
But it was just lying around. We need something else. What can we do? What's easy to learn? Well, this has 2 chords. Okay. You know. Um and Living Room was much more, I think it was a little more original. We'd gotten to know each other more as players. Like there's more, it's subtle, and I wish it wasn't as subtle. There's more interplay with the instruments and the guitars and bass and drums, and everything's just like a little more, it hangs together better in my mind. It's more interesting. Like when Slo Blo songs come on randomly on my iPod or whatever phone,
hmm
I usually skip them.
But you still have them on there.
Oh yeah, they're on there. Um,
It's interesting because when it comes to streaming, Living Room is on streaming, but Slow Blow isn't. Was that kind of the reason why? Like not as
no,
connected with Slow
we
Blow
we
as.
don't. I don't think we have any control over
Oh,
anything
okay.
released by
That's
Geffen.
not up to you, right?
I don't think so. I mean, we could go. We've thought about going and just putting it on streaming services ourselves. But I'm pretty
You
sure
own the
get
rights to your own music?
not the recordings. No, as
Okay.
far as I know, we own the rights as songwriters.
Right.
Like someone covers it or they put it. We get the
Content
residual.
ID.
Um, I don't know. I forget. There's a thing with like mechanicals, and there's a thing with like, who owns the rights to the recording. That's why people re-record their own albums.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Okay.
It's because then the company they're mad at actually still owns the recording, but there's a new recording that sounds exactly the same, but it's not the same recording. So they can't, so the artist can do whatever they want with it.
Right, right.
Um, we could do that. We could do that. No. I have no desire to do that. But it would be nice if that stuff was available because, one of the reasons, I don't know, things pop up every now and then, fans post things, and it's really fun for us to see it. And we don't, I would like more of that. I know there were more fans out there than we realized.
When you hear enthusiasm from cell fans or whatever, like bands that you were involved in, myself included, because I'm a big fan. Does it like, of course you're appreciative, I'm sure, but does it kind of get do you kind of get embarrassed by it? Is it kind of overwhelming at times?
Well, I would say it's none of that. Um,
Okay.
it's sort of like, it's hard to believe that people other than ourselves actually listened to it ever.
Okay.
You
Yeah.
know, it's like, really? You listen to that? I never even considered the idea that someone would listen to it.
Like me.
Yeah. Not because it's bad or anything, just because you can't conceive of other people.
Listening to your own work, like, and
Yeah.
and just like what happened in the early days, like when you put out Crash with Flower, and so many people kind of took to it, and you were like, what the hell? What?
Yeah, I know. I mean, it is funny how that happens. I mean, obviously we're not that's not, that's on a very low level, but still you don't even expect that much. And, you know, we just don't acknowledge that as a flower, like actual flower release, but
Mhm.
a lot,
But when
maybe
it
more
comes
people.
to that reception, you do feel like, well, thank you so much, that kind of thing. Like, I'm glad that this music, speaks to you in some way, that kind of thing.
Well, yeah, let me, maybe this will be enlightening for folks and for you. Um, Jerry and Keith were not paying attention whatsoever to anything that was going up on YouTube for years. And I, just recently, I mean, like in the last year or so, I linked to them. I was like, dudes, look, look at the comments. People liked us, right? Like, and you especially, Jake, are very enthusiastic. And you actually are. I mean, I'm realizing like you had something to do with our reunion, because if you hadn't, your enthusiasm makes us feel like people actually might want to hear us perform, you know. Um,
I appreciate that so much, man.
but
Thank
we do too. Yeah. I mean, it's two-way street. It's not, I mean, maybe this is the essence of rock and roll or music or communication in general, is just that if we're doing it in a vacuum, performing or writing, that's fun. But when you get involved, look, I'm pointing right at you. When you get involved, suddenly it becomes like a back and forth thing. Like we're trading energy, or we're both getting excited. Like
you.
we're
Yeah,
excited to play because you're excited to hear it. Like
yeah.
then it becomes a thing, like a thing that it wasn't before. And that's sort of the real excitement about live music and being in bands, and also being a fan, because I'm a fan just as much as I'm in a band. You know, I want to be that guy that's like, ah,
Yeah.
in the
And,
front row.
and I
Or,
love those sorts of instances where musicians are fans, you know, kind of kind of more than the band stuff, probably.
yeah, well, I just put up a post, right? So that post of us at Bataclan in Paris with the photos where we're opening for Sugar, like really honestly, I think one of my favorite periods of being in Cell was getting to tour with Sugar. And I was the guy, me and the sound man would stand on the side, like, you couldn't see us from the audience, but we were on the side of the stage singing every song. Like we had a beer in our hands and we were singing. And it
That's
was just
awesome.
like, it was so cool to like, I loved Sugar. I loved Sugar. I love Sonic Youth. Sonic Youth has even more influence on me, but there's something about that tour and those songs that they were playing, and they were so singable, like sing along, like Hoover Dam, or I don't know if you know those albums, but um, so much to sing along to. It was so loud,
Mhm.
and so we were just screaming our heads off.
Mhm.
It was
So
great.
back to Cell. So in 1995, Cell kind of broke up. Now, was there, because you mentioned like um, an accumulation of an album not sounding right, an album not resonating with you as much. Were there tensions between those releases, or did it all basically implode at the end?
There were always tensions, at least on my part, because I was always like, when do I get my turn? I joined a band. I'm not used to being a contributor. I'm used to controlling at least 50% of what's going on.
Right, you're not just a guy in a band who does stuff that other people, want to do.
Hmm. But I also understand the importance of give and take, and like it's this person, like I'll go with, like, Jerry's a great guitar player and a great guitar writer. So he writes amazing riffs, and so like, I have to defer to that. I gotta be like, yeah, that is cool. Let's play that. But they weren't so interested in doing my songs, and my songs didn't quite fit the cell thing as much anyway. So
Yeah, I mean, Halo is one of my favorite songs from Living Room. I really love that song.
thank you.
I mean, even that line, "What's that over your head? Does it mean that you're dead?"
Yeah, my ex-wife liked that one too because it was about her.
Oh, jeez.
She liked it. She thought that was funny. I don't know where that came from, but yeah, that's what jumps out at me too, as far as lyrically. But yeah, when I wrote songs for Cell, it would have to be with Cell in mind. Like I would have to sort of be like, okay, what is a
Okay,
song?
guys, what appeals to, the guys in the band as well as me?
Right. I was not out there writing for myself.
Right.
So if there's a song,
That makes
the,
sense.
all the other Cell songs that I wrote, like were written hope like with trying to get that Cell vibe, you somehow, and but also bring something new into it because it's good to have a little variety, but not too out there, not too different. French is much more pop punk. Cell is more heavy. You know.
Yeah. And I like French and I like how that transitioned. I like this sort of, there's some similarities to it, but then in other aspects it is different from Cell because it's a lot less rugged. You can actually hear more of the arrangements. They're not
Yeah,
muddied in like a lot of like
maybe I should turn up the guitars more on the French records.
probably.
Um, but yeah, no. So where was I? So yeah, no, there
The
was
cell
tension.
during the breakup phase was
There
kind of
was tension. There was tension because the other weird thing that happens, I mean, people whisper in your ear, like people will take you aside and tell you all kinds of weird shit. Like I think Jerry was having people take him aside and say, Jerry, you write all the songs, you should get all the credit or all the, you should have 70% of the proper
all the
prop.
cha-ching.
Yeah, and Jerry was like, well, yeah, I do work hard and I'm responsible for all this stuff. So maybe I should get paid more. And like some of that was floating around, some of those ideas, and I was just like, you know, I'm not into that. But also, my wife was not happy at all with me being on the road 8 months a year, which is pretty much what we were
Were you
gone 8 months a
gaining
year.
momentum like right as you were breaking up, or was it just like your usual business?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Were you gaining momentum right during like that time, like playing? You said you were still on the road. Were you playing a lot more shows at that time, or was it kind of dwindling?
No, we were still playing the same amount of shows.
Same crowds too, same amount of people.
Well, the funny thing is, so memory is a weird thing, so don't trust my memory.
All right, all right.
I feel like we were bigger in Europe than we
Yeah.
were in America,
Okay, yeah,
uh,
because there's a lot of
especially
German
Germany.
fans. Me kind
Yes,
of included because I do have German ancestry.
so do I. Um, your ancestors, your far distant relatives may have come to the show. So, I was just shocked. For instance, like, have you seen the Cell live at Dortmund video that's just been on it? That someone put it up on YouTube. It's on our YouTube page. We put a link to it.
I might have. I know that you were thinking of putting it all on the DVD and like circulating, you know,
Well,
the
that's still
live.
in process. That is still well. Now that would be streaming.
Right.
I do have it on DVD. The question is, how do I edit it down and for what purpose?
Right. Okay.
You know,
I think, yeah, I might have
a
seen
video of
it.
Jerry
The
getting
memory
out of the
is kind of
shower.
vague, but I know it's probably out.
That was a while. That's probably like 10 years ago. We were talking about that. But I mean, you and
Yeah, 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 yeah. Like during the YouTube comment days. Yeah, yeah. Okay.
where was I? I don't know. But what were we talking about?
So yeah, so during Cell's breakup, you were on the road, you were playing shows, and you happened to be much bigger in Europe than you were in the States.
Right. So seeing us live at Dortmund, which is what somebody posted on YouTube, like we actually, I would have told you and I would have believed it 100% that I've never been in a band that played an encore. I
Okay.
think we did, I think Flower did once.
Okay.
And, but usually because we're the opening band, like opening bands generally don't get encore. But in that Dortmund video, we got two encores. And I was floored. I was floored at the first. I was like, oh wow, we got an encore. And then we go off the stage and we're kind of dropping our guitars and like rock star, like wow, throw our guitars. And they still would not, the audience was still like, and so we had to come out and play a second encore, which, in my
Is it just
memory,
whatever songs you
hap-
could muster? Did you have songs already planned or no?
well, we definitely would have had to, we did not have
Some
anything.
bands play the same song during the encore.
Well, by that time, so that was May 1994.
Okay.
uh, I think that shows from, and that was I must have left. I left my last show with the band was in Germany, so that even that could have been our last show together. I don't know. That might have been the
Yeah.
finals.
Yeah, it says 1995 was when you broke up. Is that
Well,
good?
they broke up in
Oh,
1994.
they broke up, but you left, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
and they had to like find and train a new guitar player in like 2 weeks, which is impossible because I can't even remember what the hell I can't. I'm still trying to figure out what the hell we played. Like listening to the record, you can't tell
Right.
a lot of parts. It's really hard to figure them out. Jake, maybe you could help me.
All right. Well, I can
What do I do on Everything Turns?
I can sing the songs like if
No,
I
that
can.
part I know.
Yeah.
It's where do my fingers go on Everything Turns?
Yeah. Well, I play in kind of since I was born disabled, I play in my own adaptive way, so it's probably won't sound as full, so but
Well,
it'll
whatever
sound
I'm
close
doing,
to it.
whatever I'm doing is wrong.
It's all right, man. So, do you think with this reunion, you said I was the one who got first dibs on like the information. Um, are you excited about kind of reestablishing that bond, rekindling those kind of vibes? Yo,
Yeah. Yes. You know what I'm excited about is I think Keith and Jerry, because I've been playing live and recording and stuff ever since then, and Jerry did a little bit, but not much. And I got to experience last year with the Drom Fest. Uh, we've been playing a lot anyway, like so it's not like I hadn't played a show. Sorry, um, but the vibe at Drom Fest with like Das Damen coming back,
yeah, that's another one. Yeah,
um, there was so much just kind of love and joy, and like appreciation for everything. Again, it's like between you and me and the musician artist thing or audience artist. Uh, the bands were so appreciative that anyone gave a shit,
right.
and the people in the audience were so appreciative that they came back and you know worked hard enough to come back and play a show uh, or a couple shows. Um, the whole thing was so positive that I really wanted Jerry and Keith, I think, uh, probably, I mean, the whole Cell thing was kind of a left a sour taste in all of our mouths, mainly because we felt like failures because we didn't sell enough records, which is ridiculous because when you
And
sell,
still enough records.
right, uh, can't sell enough records, when you look back at it, we don't know too many people who sold 70 or in bands that sold 70,000 records. So why is that a failure? and it's only because a failure because we expected something else and we didn't
Right.
appreciate what.
Yeah, so living room in comparison to Slo Blo 70,000 was probably, was it less?
Well, no one. I left the band. I was out.
Oh,
I
okay. So you
I
don't
don't know
even
what it
know,
sold.
right?
I don't. I mean, I don't. I can't imagine that it sold more than 20,000 copies.
Okay.
It'd
Wow.
sell
So,
20. I would be
but
surprised.
regardless, you're excited to get back. You've been talking to the members.
Well,
Spirits
if
are high.
well, I want those guys to experience it because they haven't experienced like I want them to have sort of an experience with Cell where they get to feel the love.
Right.
I did with Flower when Flower got back together. I was like, really?
Yeah, I remember. I remember when that happened. That was good.
Yeah, it was just very warm, It was always like also back in the day in the 90s, things were very competitive and people were very jealous and there's a lot of nasty, I mean, kind of like
Super
cloak.
competitive.
Yeah, but not sometimes competitive in a good way and sometimes competitive in a more negative way and
Yeah.
we were resented.
Just an everlasting pissing match sometimes. And sometimes it's good, friendly competition. You can actually learn from other people.
Right. Well, John Lennon and Paul McCartney are a great example of a pissing match or a competition that pushed them each to their
Creative
utmost.
potential, right?
Yeah, but then also got sour.
Yeah, yeah.
And well, it's not a pissing contest anymore,
Right.
which is so as you and I both know, but maybe if you live in Berlin and you're here, like Keith does, he doesn't realize that like we can play a show and there's not going to be backbiting and there's not going to be like who do they think they are kind
Yeah,
of,
because it is different.
at this point 30 years later no one gives a shit.
Right,
They just
right.
we just want to sort of get together and enjoy the stuff we were too insecure to enjoy in the first place. Too competitive, too insecure, too jealous, too worried. And now it can just be a joy.
Right.
Now it can just be fun. And hey, we're here together. Can you believe it? Like all 50, like it's a small place up there
Hmm.
where they have Drom Fest. It's like, I don't know, 50 to 80 people capacity. Um, and I'm gonna drop it on your show. Cell is gonna play a New York City show. Uh, well, oh no, it's basically confirmed. I don't want to. We haven't announced it yet, but we're gonna
It
play a New York
sucks
City.
because I don't live in New York anymore. I live in Florida, Tampa.
Mhm.
So I don't know if you're ever going to come to
Oh,
Tampa, but if you do,
Pogo?
um, oh,
There's a band.
Pogo, like
Yeah,
I
Pohgoh.
heard of them, but I don't know them.
I have a feeling you'd like them.
Okay,
They're from the area. They're really cool.
okay, that's
Flower
cool.
played with them. I mean, they opened for Jawbreaker, I think, a few times.
Okay,
Jawbreaker are friends of ours too.
yeah, and I like Jawbreaker, and I'm probably one of the only fans of Dear You.
Ah, I don't know it. Yet another group of friends who I haven't heard any of their actual stuff or seen their TV shows.
Oh man.
I go see them live, but yeah, we used to. There was a band that Richard and I were in before Flower that the bass player for Jawbreaker was in. Um, we go way back. So uh, I don't know. Do you have any other questions? I gotta pee.
Well, yeah, well, considering the career that you've had thus far, 30 years on, what have you learned about yourself, not only as a musician, but as a person?
Uh, what did I learn? Uh, that it pays to be nice to people. I don't know. See, I'm a psychotherapist. Did you know that?
Yeah, I did. I've known your background, and in fact, you told me when we originally scheduled the interview,
Oh, right, right,
actually,
right.
you actually had a client. So
Yeah,
did
yeah.
that factor in also to what you learned alongside music?
Well, that's sort of the thing is I learn stuff every day.
Hmm.
So it's really hard. I'm trying to think of like what did I learn sort of in the long term, like in the long run, because there's always stuff we're learning every day. Um, you know, I don't know. It's a lot of self-acceptance. It's a lot of like I'm okay. Uh, you know, a lot. I mean, I think it's stuff we all kind of come to terms with as we age. Is just like you know that we do the best we can, and that's something to respect. Um, and uh, actually, I'm super grateful. Like one of the things I've learned over the years is that I guess I've had an unusual life in some ways compared to a lot of people in America. Um, I got to do a lot of like I don't know. It's all stuff we took for granted, and I don't take it for granted now. Maybe that's the thing. Is kind of being in New York and like yeah, Sonic Youth's across the hall and tour with Sugar or whatever. At the time it was like, well, this is supposed to happen, and maybe it was, but now I don't. Now I'm just like, wow, that was a lucky guy in his 20s.
Hmm.
You know,
Wow, that is good. And lastly, anything you'd like to say to your fans?
you mean to you?
To me, to everybody.
But we have more than you.
Yeah.
Um, Post stuff. We want to share. We want to interact. Find our YouTube channel. What? Sell NYC official or something like that.
Hmm.
Google Sell Live at Dortmund. We, or our Facebook page, which is Sell NYC official. We just want to share and hear what you guys, thought or did or experienced, and because we were there too, and we weren't always taking pictures. So let's see what you got.
Hmm.
You know, that's my message.
Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate it too. It was so fun that I made it from one bathroom visit to another.